This man tonight that I'd like to introduce had a stellar career in football. He was a leader. We had tri-captains that year, and he was one of them. I know this team has been special to me because I could relate so much to each one of them. But Gary is a fine person. He grew up to be a good businessman. He has suffered adversity in his life, not only with the knee injuries, but he had a stroke just a few years back and has recovered fully. He's a 9 handicap golfer, so he must be back to where he was, but he was a 4 handicap. But it is my pleasure to introduce Gary Bubba Eldridge.
I played so long ago that we didn't have mouthpieces. We didn't have them fancy gloves to hang onto the ball. We didn't have earrings. We didn't have tattoos. And I'll tell you what, if you danced in the end zone after you scored a touchdown, Cooser and Kruger would have hung you by the tree, so that was out. The one theory was your opponents are working very hard. If you want to beat them, you got to work harder. So that followed me all through life. When you had to go get a job, you know, it comes to reality. You got to work hard, and you got to outwork your opponents. But my favorite story is about my daughter, Katie. She was playing softball at Mush Community Park in the summer, and there was the game before the championship game, and it was last inning. She come up to bat, behind 1 run. The girls are on, 2 girls are on base. So she turns and looks at Dad, and I'm giving her the signals. This means money. And she shook her head. And we got up to a big number, and she shook her head. And she looked at me, and she went this across her waist and pointed to the ground. And I says, okay. And she looked down the third base coach, and he looked at her. He was going to give her the signal. He saw the gleam in her eye. He said it was just a waste of time. First pitch come out, and she missed it. Turns around to me and says, no big deal. And so the next one was gone. As soon as it hit the bat, it was over the fence. And she rounded third, pointed to me, pointed to the ground, and clapped. But after the game, the coach come up to me and said, Bubba, I got to know what this means. You were up to $100, and she said no. I got to know what that was all about. And I said, well, it's kind of private between me and my daughter. He said, I can't sleep tonight. I said, well, okay, coach. I says, last week she got in a little mischief, you know, and I had to ground her. So basically what that was, it was half her grounding. He said, no wonder the ball went over the fence.
Few, if any, gymnasiums our next inductee can walk into without commanding instant recognition and warm regard. As part 1 of the first father-son induction duo in Hammond Sports Hall of Fame history, I'm pleased to introduce Russ E. Marcinek.
In coaching at Morton, and of course before, you know, the kids I had at Morton and dealing with them, they all were first class. They always were on time. They always worked hard. They always gave their utmost. And I think when I'm looking back, it was a direct reflection on their parents. Their parents always stood behind us, and we were able to produce. I'm getting some more flashbacks. I can see Rich Nimchek fading away, hitting his shot. I can see Steve Vermajon zipping them from the outside at that basket. I can see John Fowler, who's never tipping in the last bucket, put it in so we won. When I could see Darren Benchinger over there on that flashback. I remember this one year, Andrean spanked us twice during the year, but we spanked him in the sectional. Darren Bensinger hitting those jump shots from the baseline. All these things are coming back. All these things I experienced in the Hammond Civic Center. I remember Father Junk. You know, he had in his house, or in his office, he said, the best way to build confidence and build character in a boy is give him a pat on the back if it's low and hard enough. So I got a few of those. Thank you, everybody, for this honor. I appreciate it, and I hope it keeps going. And again, remember Russ McLeod in your prayers, and the Civic Center's been great.
Russ has taught me a lot about being a competitor and working on my individual skills more than he'll never know. Our team's always had a sense of security when Russ had the ball in his hands. In my opinion, Russ was the most creative and best player with the ball in his hands, at least of the era that I participated in. Today, Russ carries himself with the same humility and quiet confidence that he once played with.
My mom and dad gave a significant amount of time and energy to my athletic career. From my dad, being a coach, he was taking me to the gym and to the diamond when I was a toddler. To my mother, driving me to seemingly endless practices and games. Their support and their encouragement gave me the reinforcement that what I was involved in was worthwhile and meaningful. The memories that I shared with my teammates during my high school and college career are my most prized possessions. From the opportunity to win a sectional and play in a regional final at East Chicago Central in front of 7,000 people in 1990, to seeing the South Shore pass by Irving Park baseball diamond when I was playing for Bishop Knoll was truly a memory that I'll treasure more than anything I could possibly imagine.